Guys, a little over a year ago, this fantastic company right here, Mechman Alternators, sent me an alternator to do on the truck that you saw that I was working on a year ago. So here's the deal. I got busy, okay? I got really busy and I let time slide. So it's time to make it up to them. Let's go to Knoxville. We're gonna head to Mechman, guys. Let's go. Alright, so I just pulled over for a second. I've got hot air blowing out my passenger side and cold air blowing out my driver's side. And I've got air conditioning on, and even if I change this to you know, bring the temperature down and do separates, it still does heat on the driver's or passenger side. I'm not sure what's going on, but look, we got some water leaking from the air conditioning system. Actually, some got on my SDX amp, so that's fun. So I'm not sure what's going on, guys, but something's up with my AC. And it's cold by me but hot here, and I'll tell you what, it's so hot outside that heat just travels right back to me. So I gotta figure out what's going on with my air conditioning. So I finally made it to Mechman after some weird air conditioning issues. I took some video earlier, me being on the side of the road. Anyway, we're here, air conditioning's messed up, but we're gonna get at least the alternator done today. Again, guys, you remember they gave this bad boy to me probably about a year and a half ago.
That's the wrong one.
Oh, that's the wrong one? Well, this one, no, they don't know any different. They sent this bad boy about a year and a half ago when I first started on the truck. Thank you. I forget all the talking points, so we're just gonna go ahead and get this thing in here. I'm gonna let Tony do the talking and explain what we're doing. I'll do some of the work, he'll do some of the work, and we'll just make it happen.
Sounds good to me.
All right. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get the old alternator off the truck. We'll show you how that's done. There's a switched power that we have to find. I think I already found it. And maybe some other things. Tony's gonna walk me through it, walk us through it, we're going to make sure we do it properly.
Thankfully for us, Brian has already taken care of the hard part. He's got all the wire ran. Got the 0 gauge from the positive. He's already got his 0 gauge on the ground right here. And that's real important when you put these on. You want to make sure that you have a circle path of electricity. A lot of people will just put the big fat power wire on it and go straight to your battery,
right? And
then not do anything else. You can do your ground from the alternator to the frame, which that works, but there's no better ground on the vehicle than the negative post of the battery.
Yep.
So when you run that wire over there,
I got negatives all over this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's the biggest thing.
If you guys remember actually it was one of the first videos I did where I did the electrical system. I've got each battery re-grounded with the right size wire on each because there's 2 of them. Yep. So there's a battery ground for each end. Then each battery also has a ground that goes to the engine itself. So you have your engine chassis grounds. Well, there's a lot of grounds going on in this vehicle because you want to make sure you don't have a bottleneck in your ground as so much your power wire as well.
Yep.
So, and then both batteries are connected together at the alternator itself. So that's your point of connection between both batteries.
Easy peasy. It's
cool.
A lot of time it is just ground, and you also eliminate a lot of sound in your audio equipment when you can ground it to the actual battery post. Sometimes you can get some interference with that, and I've always had good luck with running it to the negative post. I've never had to research on Google why there's an alternator noise, so it must be working.
I have had alternator noise in this truck actually with my SDX amplifier, and then I ended up running the ground from the SDX actually to the battery, which is a really small amplifier. It's for my tweeters, and that works really well.
You don't need a noise filter. You don't.
Yeah.
You just need to install things correctly, is what we're trying to say. It's amazing when that happens.
Even professionals make mistakes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and get this thing off, and we're going to show you the difference between the old one and the new one that I'm getting and the other models that they have available for this vehicle. All right, so you really want to remove your ground wires, but I have a lot of grounds going on in this vehicle, so I'm not going to remove them. So the next safest thing would be, what, Tony?
You isolate the power wire with plastic.
So when you take these off, this power wire, you want to make sure it's not touching any grounds if you haven't removed the grounds from your battery. So 10 millimeter socket, right?
That's it.
And you got the little baggie we're going to put this in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in this case, since my alternator is still good and I might sell it or keep it, I'm going to put that 10 mil right back on. Oh, you know what? I got to remove the factory wire. I still have the factory positive too.
Oh.
Why not? All right. So anyway, I'm going to put the 10 mil back on there, and then we're going to put this in a little bag so that stays insulated and out of the way.
Well, it's easy.
All right, tell us, Tony, what are we going to do?
So you may have to come over here to see it.
Okay.
And let me switch with you.
All right.
But this is the main thing I like to tell people. You see on your tensioner, you have a mark on your left, and you have a mark on the right.
Okay.
And in between, there should be a line as well, and then a line on the actual moving part of the tensioner.
Okay.
So what I like to tell the customer is some applications we have, you don't need to install a shorter belt. Sometimes the factory has a 52 millimeter alternator pulley. So with our 46 millimeter pulley, generally you can kind of get the slack. The spring tensioner takes that up. But the main thing I say is before you take the alternator off, before you take the belt off, before you do anything, look at your tensioner and see where that mark is.
Okay. That'll tell you if you have more play or not.
This is where the factory recommends it.
Okay.
And that's what we recommend because the factory got it right on belt tension.
Right.
So you can be a little bit off, a little bit, to the left or to the right. That's okay. It's no big deal. It's not a game of millimeters here. Just as long as the tensioner can move front and back and do what it does, which is tension. So,
and that's something I didn't think of, and that's why I'm here with the professionals.
It's just
I mean,
that
I
little
knew
stuff.
in my situation, I knew my factory belt would have been fine.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what type of tolerance I had to work with, and actually, I never even knew that's what those lines were for. So,
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna loosen the tensioner. That way, we can take the belt off the alternator. Right?
Yep, that's it.
And there we go. So next thing we're going to do, we've got everything on the alternator disconnected. So we're going to go ahead and take these two bolts out right here, and hopefully it just wiggles out. Sometimes you got to give it a little bit of
They're stubborn.
oomph, but yep, I'll do that, and that's fine. All right, so there's the second bolt coming out there.
Cool.
Put that down.
All right.
Let's see if it just lifts up. Give it a little wiggle. Oh, that's on there pretty good.
Yep. Hold on. Let me try to show you a trick on this.
Yeah, show me a trick. Oh, is that pressing that in?
Yep. Sometimes on these you can pull straight forward and the slip rings will take care of it.
Yeah.
But other times it's pry bar time.
Okay.
So
We're gonna need a pry bar. Maybe.
yeah, it wiggled a little bit, but it's you can see some rust in there.
Yeah,
So
she's seen better
it's
days.
better not to. Yeah, I'm old. I don't want to throw my back out. I'll let the pry bar do the work. So
Okay, we'll go
get a pry
grab a
bar.
bar real quick. We'll be right back. All right, so Tony found a pry bar.
Persuader. So again, you don't want to tear this thing up because you can resell this, use it in an emergency, or maybe your buddy needs one and you can be that guy that helps him out. So but again, easy to pop that sucker there, just little by little. You get one side, just light wiggles.
I guess she was on there pretty good, huh?
I mean, they're supposed to be like this. Those bushings move, so it's not a huge deal.
And it's still hot from my drive.
Yeah.
Here, I think I could wiggle it the rest of the way. There we go.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
So
Let's go see what the difference is between this guy and what we are putting on the truck. All right, so here's the alternator that came off the truck. It's still warm. And then here are some other alts. We're gonna go ahead and talk, or I'm gonna let Tony do the talking and explain to us what the difference between all this stuff is right here. So Tony, take it away.
all right, man. You can see this alternator is pretty standard. That's an actual. To get technical, these mounting feet are 2 inches.
Okay.
Front to back, both sides. They're symmetrical, and it's pretty much a 5.5 inch bolt spacing there.
Gotcha.
So 5.5, that's a good number to know because many, if not all, aftermarket brackets will be built just for this alternator. So if you pick up a nice custom bracket for a street rod, hot rod, or whatever, chances are it's going to have that 5.5 inch mounting pattern. Okay,
So you explained the 5.5 inch?
5.5.
And that's going to be the mounting
Correct.
position of all these.
Every single one of these, even though they look different, pulleys are different, the regulators are different. Literally, that's why the 96 to literally 2022 GM full-size truck SUVs are so popular, because you can take this alternator and it'll fit on a 1996 model. You can take this one and it'll fit on a 1996.
Gotcha.
It'll fit on a 2022. The only thing that changed through the years in the cycle is your 96 to 04s will have the traditional 4-pin plug. This is the one that everybody likes. It's 12-volt switch source. You plug it in and go.
Okay.
That's the one everybody goes to. The 2005s on the trucks, it's when they switched to this 2-pin style. Now this gets a bad rap because of the voltage swaying back and forth.
Gotcha.
Many customers see that and they think the alternator's bad, or their lights are getting brighter and then they're dimming, when in fact it's it's not the charging issue, it's the algorithm inside the vehicle.
Like an ECM type of thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's basically telling the alternator, my batteries are full, I don't need the help.
Oh, it doesn't need to work as hard.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn this thing off, and it can get as low as 12.5 volts, whatever
Okay.
your battery resting voltage.
Gotcha.
It can get as high as 15.5 volts in some cases. Only extreme, but you're most likely to see 14 to 15, 12.5, 15 on your cold days. So
Gotcha.
the 2-pin's not that bad. But if you
this one that you've got in your hands, this is the one that's going in my truck, right?
No.
No, this one, or is it that one?
No, we're giving you the full sauce on this one.
Oh, okay.
We're just going to go ahead and get rid of the voltage because we know you've got audio.
Yep.
Just like everyone else, you say you're done, but you're going to add more later. Just everybody does that. That's no problem.
So
we're
full sauce for people that have audio systems.
pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a
Is
lot
that
of
the same difference, like this one and versus these? These are obviously higher amperage.
Correct.
So similar situation, right, between
Correct.
this and those two?
Correct.
Okay.
The main reason on these, on the basically anything that's 320, 370, or 400, we go ahead and switch over to the 4-pin.
Okay.
Because if you're buying a 300 plus alternator, there's a good chance you're into the audio thing. So,
Yep.
and also,
Well, before we go too deep in that, let's actually tell people what we have on the table.
Sure.
Okay, so here's the factory.
right,
Then what's next to it here?
this right here is the entry level billet raw case 250 amp alternator.
Okay.
So if you were wanting a billet alternator, this will be the most cost effective way to do that.
Sweet.
We offer these in red, blue, gold, pink, black,
All the colors.
you know, you name it. But a lot of people like the machine look. We can even polish these. It'll look like chrome
Yeah,
when we're done.
it's got a good shine to it already, straight out of the gate.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. It's a good, we use Keating Machine here in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he'll cut all that out and deburr and make sure all the tolerances are right. And it's just one step we don't have to do because, you know, we do business with people with like minds. So
Right.
we expect a certain quality level, they expect it, and when you get two people together like that,
That's the way it
everything's
goes.
okay.
Fantastic. So what do we have next here? What's this guy?
This right here is if you just needed a 250 amp alternator, you didn't want to change your belt, you did not want to hook up a 12 volt switch source, you wanted the easiest possible install ever for an alternator, this would be it.
Okay.
This is a 250 amp alternator as well. This is a 250 as well. There's no difference in power
Okay.
at all.
So this is just a slightly easier install on this one,
It's easier and it's cheaper,
right?
but it doesn't look anywhere as badass as that.
Yeah, that looks pretty kick-ass, yeah. This does have more of a factory look to it. I will say.
Correct.
So there's my factory. Obviously, when this was new, it looked a little bit better. It probably had a similar look to like this guy right here.
Yeah, absolutely. These are just all Denso components. Gets technical, your 6-phase and 3-phase, but if you look in the wires, you'll see, you know, it's wound, but it's not really symmetrical.
There we go.
And if you look real close, the wires are actually round.
Okay.
So, not as much surface area, not as much going on in one package. If you look in here, we actually use square wire called flat wire.
Oh, okay.
So you get more surface area,
Oh,
and it's the hairpin style, so you're getting more it's basically, let's do audio stuff, basically like a voice coil. The tighter
that's
you wind,
exactly what I was thinking about when
Yeah.
you started talking about
yeah,
it.
if you do the more surface area, square wire, you know, full
Yeah, we use a
copper,
lot of flat wound wire
yeah,
on
flat
our coils.
wound.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same technology. It's
Also
you know,
helps with heat dissipation in some form of fashion.
and absolutely, that's where this one fails. That's where the OE one fails.
Yeah.
It can do the amperage, but when it does get heat soaked, under the hood, in traffic, you know, everything going, and it's pumping, doing its thing, the thermal efficiency of this alternator is way less than a modern day Denso. This technology is what you're getting in like your high-end vehicles, your Corvettes all use this. It's this type of technology.
Yep, I like that.
And I mean, it's what's warranted by the manufacturer. I mean, it's just all around better.
Right.
It's just a more efficient, more modern way to do it.
Cool. So these two are 250s.
Correct.
One's just installed slightly different than the other. Then
Correct.
we've got these two, which are the big bad boys that you guys offer for my truck.
Yeah.
And again, if you guys don't remember, this is a 2009 GMC Sierra. Same thing as the Silverado, basically. So 2009, I think 07 to 13, I believe, are the same.
05.
05?
05 to 13.
05 to 13, yep.
Good. 14 and up are different.
Perfect. All right, so again, these are 400 amp alts.
Correct.
So these are what you see the big builds running, and sometimes they got multiples of these, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, these we only offer anything that's 320, 370, and 400. We only offer these in the 4-pin variety.
Yeah, and the casing, if I'm not sure if the terminology is correctly, I'm calling this a casing. It looks slightly bigger, it's just a little more on the back end of it.
Yeah, we bring this out a little bit more. It helps a little bit with cooling.
Right.
Not, it's not anything that's, earth shattering or whatever, but we figure these dimensions are okay to expand, because a lot of times you have to remember these will go into custom vehicles.
Yeah.
And they'll have a valve cover right behind it.
Oh yeah. When in my vehicle, there's plenty of room back here to add extra.
Right. You mount it up.
Look, we got a dead bug. Look at that.
But a lot of hot rods will like to mount all the accessories low.
Oh yeah.
So it'll put it right in front of that cylinder head, and then now you end up with a really cool product that you can't get to line up on the belts, and it screws everything up.
Yeah.
So we deem these, that's about as most as we feel comfortable going.
Yeah, it's only like what, a half inch?
Yeah.
At the
I
most?
mean, it's not much, but anything you can do heat wise to keep these things cool, the more they're going to put out, and the more reliable they're going to be.
Cool.
And
well, let's go ahead and get this bad boy installed.
I can't talk about our Bluetooth adapter here.
A Bluetooth adapter? What do you got?
No.
I'm just
This is our heat shrink. It's a good place to put it.
Just saving the wire from getting pinched.
Yeah. A lot of times people will just think this is a Bluetooth antenna and not connect it, and then they wonder why the
got that wireless alt, bro.
Yeah, it's yeah, we haven't perfected that yet. We're thinking maybe a Tesla coil coming off the back, but that's later on down the road. But in the meantime, it makes for a great heat shrink holder.
Sweet. Let's go get this thing installed, Tony. By the way, you wanted to show them that it does come with some ring terminals?
Absolutely. On every Mechman alternator that you buy, doesn't matter if it's the cast or painted or billet or whatever, every single one of these alternators are in the box. How you will get them, just like this: a dyno tag, a battery positive tag, the nut, and the appropriate sized ring terminal. Most of them are going to be this size, 0 gauge, but on your 170 and 240s, it'll be a 2 gauge or 4 gauge, I believe. But the main thing, when we send these, we intend for you to use them.
Hey, they look like good copper lugs.
They're copper lugs, but the main point for using these, it's going to be the fitment on there. It's got to fit tight.
Okay.
It's got to fit tight.
It's not super loose. Okay, that's a good idea.
A lot of the ones that are sold as Universal or Amazon or eBay or just in general.
Yeah, it's like a one size fits all.
Yeah, they go ahead and make this hole really big, so it'll fit a whole bunch of things.
Gotcha.
Which that's fine.
On mine, I have our Sundown ring terminals on there. They're close in size, so they should be all right.
Yeah, the Sundown amp install kit that I used on my truck.
Yep.
The ring terminals in it, everything was just tight. They were a lot smaller than what I remember. And the ones that I did need to use, like I used one on a shock tower bolt, just a small drill with a little bit, and it fits super tight. Cool. Love to have that.
Now another thing is, on this guy, we have a ground right here.
Correct.
Okay, which also comes with the lug. Correct. Now today we're not going to do that, but let me show you what we got going on. I've already got my engine grounds right here. I have two, one from each battery. So when I get home, and this will work for now, but when I get home, I'm going to take a piece of wire, a 0 gauge, just like this. I'm going to make it long enough to come up and around and touch that ground. That way the case itself is 100% grounded, and I don't have to worry about any, I mean, this should never get loose, but it's going to only ground through here, which if I do this, it's going to be grounding through that wire as well. So just an added security of grounding.
Yeah, and it's just, you have a power wire that's going directly from the alternator to the battery. So we give you the same option on the ground lug here. You can go straight from the alternator here, straight to the closest battery. That way it's 100% installed absolutely correct with both of those wires going to the battery.
Cool.
And again, it works without it, but you know, so does a subwoofer without a box.
Yeah, this is true.
So kind of, you know, how efficient
don't
do you
do
want
that, people. Don't put no free air.
Yeah, free air is there's a zero box rise in infinite baffle.
Oh, you know what? I know we need to get this thing installed, but we can talk real quick. When you install an alternator, no matter if it's aftermarket or factory, you have to have a load on it before you have your engine start. Am I correct with that?
You need it hooked to a battery. Yes.
Right. So if you don't have it hooked to a battery and you start your engine and this starts spinning, I've heard of them burning out real fast.
You can do that. It's I hate to be a lot of people thing.
Yeah.
They will literally install the alternator, put it on, do everything, and not connect the battery, and then put the old trusty multimeter on it and say it's not doing anything.
Yep.
Well, I can't drink water if I don't have a cup. So
right.
That's kind of where that goes.
Basically, you have to have a load, a battery, so to speak, on your alternator before you start your truck up or your vehicle. So.
Yeah, it's not just going to magically voltageate whatever. It needs to have a wire to a battery to do what it needs to do. So,
gotcha. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing on here.
All right, guys. One thing before I slide, and I use the word slide appropriately in this case, when we took this alternator, the factory alternator out, these are what are called slip bushings, and it's because they slip and they are a bushing. You'll see the little crack right here in the bushing. What you want to do is either, if you have a nice quality set of needle nose locking pliers, you can clamp on to here, rotate it back and forth, loosen them up, and they'll slide forward. If you don't have that,
it's kind of like a press fit. So when we put that bolt back in there, it presses it back into where it needs to be. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And it makes sure the contact, they're wanting the contact to come through the alternator, through this bracket, and they need no gap in there. So this takes that up. But yeah, if you have a hammer, you can also tap on the backside. Some of these are a little tough. You can see the rust here. They get stubborn, but you know, don't hammer extremely hard on here. You can break these off. I haven't seen it done but maybe once, and it was like a huge swing. But the key thing is to get these bushings pushed forward as much as possible, because when you do that, this is what happens. That's what happens. You saw how we struggled getting the old one out. You can imagine trying to put this one back in the same way.
Yeah, that'd be a real pain.
And, you know, not a good hammer point.
Yeah, don't hammer your alternator, folks.
Yeah, don't do that. It's really not that difficult.
Don't bite your friends.
Yeah, and look at all the room for activities you have.
Yeah,
it's
look how much easier that is. Yeah, great.
It's amazing. And just start these by hand. Remember, these threads aren't the most durable. They're not meant to be changed out a lot. So as long as you can start these bolts by hand.
So I guess it's safe to say to not impact them in place?
I wouldn't. I mean, if you have one of those that has the clutch on it, you know, the little
you can
pop
change
in.
the torque.
Yeah, you can run those in there. But
I got you.
I mean, most of the time, I mean, I'm here at work. If I need to swap an alternator or test something, I mean, I can change these with a crescent wrench if need be. You know, so, but this right here, your 15 millimeter and a ratchet, I mean, these trucks are just so awesome for that stuff. So easy to work on them, and it's just easier for me to grab a ratchet and a 15 millimeter.
Cool.
And yes, I'm slow at this, but I just like to tighten them as as much as I can.
These people have seen me work and they know that I'm slow as well, so no, don't worry about any of that. I can tighten it up for you.
I just like to get maximum hand thread engagement.
Right.
No.
You like to get your hands dirty first, huh?
I just very paranoid about threads, and you know, I don't want to end up putting
they say cross-threading is nature's Loctite.
Well, it's actually called Goodentite. Which is a German word.
Also, while I'm doing this, we could talk about the belt real quick. So this is just using my factory belt. My factory belt looks like it's in good condition. Yep. I would suggest this being a point in time in which you check to make sure your factory belt is good to go. If it's not, swap it out. It's only like 60 bucks.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm gonna double check this one real quick. Sweet.
Yeah.
The alternator is in place now, guys.
That's just how easy it is.
Yep. There's your wrench back. I guess next we can go ahead and put the belt back on.
Yeah. Oh, it's on something.
That's me.
Oh, okay. Okay. There we go.
There we go. Just like that. Yep, I think we're on all the ribs.
Okay.
You want to make sure your belt is on all the ribs.
Oh, there we go.
And check all the ribs on the other pulleys as well, not just the alternator, obviously. Yeah. We look good here.
Yep. And when you look at the tension marks over here, it is identical to what the factory was.
Yeah. That's
so
cool.
You can't get any better than that.
Sweet. So the next thing we're going to do is, and I'm bringing the camera in a little closer so you can see this. We have to wire this, right? This yellow wire.
That's all there is.
So a switched power. And there's a switched power in this main harness right here. So I'm going to show you how I found that switched power.
And while he's doing that, I'm going to explain on this truck with Brian's 09. Remember back before I said that all 2005 up, you know, gas trucks especially, but pretty much everything, they use a 2-pin RVC controlled voltage system. So you're saying, well, what am I going to do if it doesn't plug in here? Well, that's where this comes into play. What we do is we just bypass that system, so there's no battery light, and you can go back to a traditional grounding style. Because currently Brian has the ground wire, like from factory. Over here there's a what they call a loop sensor, RVC sensor. Basically it's just an amp clamp that tells the computer what's going on. And if you don't have this hooked up, the alternator, the factory alternator, will still work, but it defaults to limp mode, goes to about 13.5 volts. So, hey, if you're cool with 13.5 volts, have at it. That's no problem. But if you want 14, 5, 6, 7, 8, want to use some booster harnesses, get some 17 volts out of this thing, this 4-pin's the way to go. So, literally this plug, I've seen this butchered. I don't know why. This is a deadhead plug. It deadheads that wiring harness. There's nothing that plugs into it. There's nothing at all. All the tech is in here that tells everything what to do. It's epoxied, weatherproof, and easiest install ever. So, and it's up to you what you do on this. You can
just zip tie that bad boy in place.
You can tuck it away. You can put it in here. You can do whatever. It doesn't matter. So with that plugged in, that battery light will never come on because of an alternator issue. If you have something else going on in the vehicle, your battery light will come on. All this does is just tell the computer the alternator is perfectly fine. Go look at something else. So the RVC loop sensor here, you don't need to worry about it. Mine on my truck has actually been unplugged for years, and you don't need to worry about it. You don't have to run wires through it. You don't have to do anything. You take a ground wire from here, go right to here. Super easy. This one little plug solves all that drama, and it gets tucked away. So, and that's all I have to say about that.
Cool, thanks, Tony. Alright, so I'm going to explain to you guys how I found switched power. So this is the main harness that comes right off the top of the engine and goes into your fuse panel. So in this main harness, I know in GMs, usually a pink wire means switched power. So we have to run this wire to there. I have an extension if I need to. Yeah, I'm going to need it to extend that. So let me show you how I found this though. So Tony's going to go in the vehicle and he's going to switch it to the on position. I'll tell you when to do it, Tony.
No problem.
All right, so right here I have a test light that has a power and ground that goes to it. Right now it's green light because it's an open circuit and or it's ground. But when that red light comes on, it means it sees 12 volt power. So go ahead and turn that to the on position, Tony. So, all right, you see how it switched to red? And he just turned it to the on position. And then go ahead and turn it off. All the way. There we go, perfect. And now it's off. So that's a switched 12 volt power. I'm gonna go ahead and solder my wire to that wire right there. So you wanna open up your harness as much as you can, and then when you're done with all this, you'll just tape it back. So I'm going to take my strippers, come in here and open this up. It's a little tight. Open it up just enough there. See that? So now that's open. Then you can take the pick tool and you're going to make a hole for your wire. Maybe a little bit better than that. There we go. I've got my wire stripped here, so I'm going to poke it through that hole. I'm going to wrap it around. And now I got to solder that in place. I'm coming here with my soldering iron. If I can make room for it. Holy crap. Alright, so that's soldered in place. And just tape this bad boy up. Good enough. Shove that up there. And now I'm just going to tape this whole thing back up real quick as best I can. Alright, so that's all done and taped out of the way. I'm going to leave enough to where it'll give this some slack so it's not super tight. Solder that up right there and we'll be good to go. Alright, so she is in. My battery's dying on the camera, so I went ahead and did these. I mean, it's no different than how it was before. I've got my factory wires still in here and I have my two aftermarket wires. And then we went ahead and soldered this to that switch power. And the only thing we haven't done that we said earlier was this ground here. I'm pretty well grounded, but I'm going to go ahead and run a wire when we get back home from here. We'll loop it around and come right up there. That way we know that 100% of this thing is extra grounded, even though it is grounded right here. This doesn't hurt to ground that. And what was the reason for that again, Tony?
It just helps because only this part, only the billet part is physically touching the mount.
Yep.
So this rear portion here, if you can get this, because it's not touching anything,
right,
you need it grounded as well. And it fully isolates the alternator from noise, from anything like that. And it's just maximum transfer.
Right.
It's no different than a tire manufacturer telling you, you need to rotate and balance your tires every so often. Well, you can drive forever, but to get the most out of those, this is what you need to do.
Gotcha.
So
cool. Well, Tony, thanks again very much. Guys, by the way, Tony, where can they find Mechman alternators?
Mechman Alternators, you can find them really anywhere now. Our dealer program is pretty much blowing up. So you're going to find them in diesel shops, you're going to find them in hot rod shops, custom shops, Down for Sound, Big Jeff Audio, Showtime,
probably Amazon. Are you guys on Amazon too?
No, but no? I'm there-ish. Y-Base World, and even Summit Racing now. So
social media?
Social media, I'm Tony from social media, Tony@Mechman.com. Generally, if you're going to send an instant message or DM or whatever on Facebook or Instagram, it's going to be me talking to you. So, on the weekends,
bother them.
Yeah, it doesn't take. If you have a question for me on the weekends, I don't mind taking 2 minutes out of my time.
We don't tell people you can talk to us on the weekends.
I don't care. I take care of it.
He's busy.
I take care of it. I know how frustrating it is.
Anyway, dude,
I got it.
Thanks again for the alternator, and thanks for teaching our peoples how to go ahead and install one of these. I knew what I was doing, but I wanted these guys to show you how to really do it,
And it's you learn something from anytime you collaborate with people, you learn something new.
This guy's got Sundown in his truck.
Yeah, I'm a Sundown fanboy. I'm a believer. I was an Earthquake way back in the day, Earthquake guy.
It's okay. I had power acoustic back in the day.
I had some power acoustic.
We all start,
Yeah, I mean that's just what I had, and I always wanted to do more with less. So I tried to spend a little more money and get the quality that I wanted, and it's amazing how I didn't have all the problems that my friends had when they went to the flea market and bought stuff.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
and you definitely won't have problems if you put one of those bad boys on your truck. Everybody, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned.
See you guys.